In the previous two lessons, you learned how to work with quick pages. Now we'll turn our attention to a digital tool that combines the quick process of using quick pages with creative flexibility, a power you will absolutely love by the end of this lesson. Let's do this. Our first set of steps are the exact same as working with the quick page. We want to first navigate to and open a layer template. And the class kit includes 6 different templates. You can choose to use the template that works best for you and the amount of photos that you want to use. But if you'd like to follow along with me, I'll be using Layered Looks Single number 6 from the class template kit. Once you've decided on the template, open it in the photo editor. Before we get started, let's take a closer look at all the typical components that make up a template layer by layer. Now this is just a demonstration I'm doing here for you guys. You can follow along with me, but you won't need to recreate these steps in the photo editor. We're going to start at the bottom of the panel because the lowest layer is always the background of your layout. And your layout becomes fuller as you stack more layers on top of the background. So here's our background layer. And following that are a number of other large paper areas that also work to support the background. So here's the background, and here's another paper, large paper in front of it, and then another paper in front of that paper. So it creates this really kind of cool framed border effect. Next follows a lot of shape layers that represent different types of additions one could make to the template. So basically on this template, I've offered suggestions for where to put a photo mat, for example, word strips, various flags and brads. And I'm just toggling on the visibility of the layers individually so that you can see the progression of how this template is built from the bottom up. Now you as a digital crafter have the choice of using these template pieces, like this flag here, or completely removing it and substituting other digital embellishments. But let's not dig into this yet. Let's continue our tour. Next up are shaped layers specifically for our photos, Photo 1 and Photo 2. You'll also notice that these layers already have style settings applied, similar to the ones we set for our embellishments in the previous quick page lesson. You can double click the FX icon here and adjust the settings same as before. And that's the beauty of using a template. You are in full control of the end game for the layout, except you've skipped ahead just a tad and the design is already well thought out for you. And that's why templates really are a win-win. The remaining layers for templates will usually include other mock shapes and suggestions above the photos for placements. In this template, there's a pre-made journaling block that you can adjust using the horizontal type tool. There's also a text area for title placement. And this one has a little subtitle and an extra title to make the title a little bit larger. And for most of my templates, the top layer is called a photo guide layer that simply helps you see which photo 1 for example, corresponds to which shape in the layers panel. And here's photo 1 right here, already marked and identified in the layers panel. Matter of fact, all of these layers in the layers panel are identified, title, journaling, element, so you can easily look back and forth and determine which photo or layer corresponds to a specific part or portion in the template. Now, not all templates have photo guide layers for photos or embellishments, but they are helpful when trying to match the right photo with the right shape in a template with tons of photos. For these 2 photos, not a really big deal. Okay, when you open a template, you have the choice of attacking the template as is or making it fit for you. And what I mean by that is you have the option to change anything you need to match the orientation of the photos you're using. Move layers around to accommodate more photos, completely remove layers to accommodate more text. The sky's the limit. And that's what makes them different from quick pages, right? Two of the biggest changes you may want to make include rotating the entire layout for a completely different layout look, or flipping the entire design of a template. We call this a universal change. Let me show you what I mean. To make universal changes to a template, you want to use the image menu in the top menu here. So you click on image and go to rotate, and you can choose 90 degrees left, 90 degrees right, 180 degrees, or something custom. So for example, let's say I want my photos to be vertical instead of horizontal, and I want everything to just take a little right-hand twist. Well, I could say 90 degrees right. And what's that going to do is turn my layout 90 degrees right, and now my photo are vertical. The flags are headed to east and west rather than north and south. And I've got this really cool, different design in front of me. I'm going to back up here. So rotating or flipping an entire layout allows you to really take your photos into account before you get started. If you want to use photos that are vertical, then you might toss this template aside and pick another. But if you make that universal change at the beginning by going to the image menu and selecting rotate and any of these top ones right here, you actually repurpose the design to fit your needs. However, let's say you do decide that you want to rotate this, let's say 90 degrees left. You would want to rotate the type text layers to match your new orientation using the rotation cursor corner on the bounding box. So I'm going to hold my shift key, 15-degree increments, and there now I have it in the orientation that I want. Click my green checkbox here to get rid of the transformation. And then I could go to the horizontal type tool and click on my text to change the size of my text box. And I could repeat the same process for my title. Now, that's a universal change, and we call it that because you're making a big change to the entire layout. But what happens, and I'm just going to be honest here, when you make that change and you go, ew, I really don't like what I've done here, I want to change that. No problem. You can totally hit undo shortcut, Command Z on the Mac or Control C on the PC, or you can go to the history panel. So to do that, go to Window, History. And this nifty little panel here, which is all small, let me increase the size of it. I can take my cursor and right at the bottom of the back box, it's going to change to an up and down arrow, and I can just drag it down to increase the size of the history panel. And there may be other panels with it, and that's completely okay, but you want to look at the history panel because this nifty little panel packs a big punch. You can use it to step backwards in time by way of events you've completed on your layout. So here's where I've edited my type layer. If I wanted to back up to where I opened my layout, I would click on Open, and now I've skipped backwards from Edit Type Layer, transforming the layer, which was making it smaller or larger, rotating the layer, and I'm back to Open. You can also jump forward through your completed events in case you don't want to back up every single step. So here's my rotate. Here's that size transformation I did. And here's the editing on the type layer. So I share all of this to say that with the undo shortcut and the history panel, the combination of the two, 99% of the time, you can't really make a mistake with your layout because you can always reverse the event. How cool is that? So I don't like this rotation. I'm going to go right back to Open. The other type of change you may want to make is a layer-specific change. We've already completed quite a few like rotating an image, but you can also rotate any layer in your layout arbitrarily, as previously discussed, by going to Image, Rotate, and choose any of the options offered like Layer 90%, 90 degrees left. You can also flip layers as well. So that's where they're located. Image rotate right in here. And that's a layer specific change. So when you look at a template right out of the digital box, study it just for a minute. Ask yourself what quick changes you might want to make the design work for you. Once you've given it some honest thought, you're ready to add photos. Let's do that quickly using the drop and drag method that you prefer. Now my photos are kind of grainy here. I'm not going to really worry about that. These are the photos that I have. I'm just going to drop each one into my layout using my preferred drag or drop method. And now both photos toggle off the visibility of one. They're both in there, but they're somewhere in between my layers panel. Doesn't matter what layer you bring them in on, because we're going to move them around in just a few seconds here. Now here comes the boom. And this is the #1 reason why people love templates, and you will too. Remember in the quick page lesson, I took you on this fanciful journey of selecting, expanding, and trimming photos to fit the windows on the quick page. You remember that? That's completely unnecessary for templates. It's so easy. Here's what you do. After you drag your photo into the layout, you want to use the Move tool, which I'm currently on. Toggle the Move tool and drag the photo layer in the Layers panel over the photo shape layer you want it to superimpose. Big word there, in the Layers panel. So this photo that I have right here that you guys can't really kind of see because it's behind these big photo layers, I'm going to click, hold, and drag this photo over my photo 1 layer in the Layers panel. Now, if you're using this template or any of the templates, they have this little stitching right here. Don't worry about the stitching so much. I've toggled mine off for right now, but you're going to want to drag it right over the stitching layer. Okay, that's fine. Or the photo layer, doesn't matter. If you drag it over the photo layer and not the stitching layer, you're going to be one step ahead of us, but you'll understand why in a second. But I want this photo to be in my photo 1 position. Now, I haven't resized it or anything yet. I'm just going to put it right over my photo 1 layer in the Layers panel. Okay? That layer. And with the photo layer still targeted in the Layers panel, go to Layer in the top menu and select Create Clipping Mask. Now you may see Create Clipping Group depending on which version of Elements you're using, and watch what happens when you do that. The photo becomes the shape. See? I'm going to back up just so you guys can see that, what happened there. Here's my big photo. I went to Layer, Create Clipping Mask, and the photo immediately trims down to the shape of the photo. Isn't that cool? Remember all that work we did in the last lesson? You don't have to do that with templates. What has happened is the photo in the Layers panel has assumed the characteristics of the shape layer underneath, the main one. And an arrow has appeared. You can see it here. An arrow has appeared telling us that the photo is clipped to the shape and that they're one. Not linked together. They won't move together unless you link them in the Layers panel. See? They're not moving. I'm not moving both the shape and the photo. But the photo has assumed the characteristics. And any special effects like the drop shadow that you guys see on this photo shape later here, my photo has taken on that characteristic. The shape, taken on that too, of course. And because it only takes a single step to clip a photo to a shaped photo layer, templates even make quick pages look kind of unquick, you know what I mean? So let me explain something real quick to you guys. If you had your stitching layer here, this little stitching representation, usually for a template, I would get rid of that stitching and replace it with real stitching. So if for example, I'm going to back up in my Layers panel here just to show you guys. And before I create my clipping mask, I'm going to toggle off the visibility of my photo so you can see my stitching, and I'm going to delete my stitching layer and use real stitching, not a replacement stitching or substitution, but real stitching. So I would target this layer in the Layers panel, And then I would press the delete key. And boom, my stitching is gone. If I wanted to keep the stitching, because it's already also clipped to the photo, then my photo can just clip right to it, or I can drag the photo in between the stitching layer, and then you can see the stitching right into the photo there. You see it? So it just depends on what you do. Again, you have a lot of versatility when you're using a template. I'm not going to keep the stitching, so I'm going to get rid of that layer, and boom, it's gone. Or I can toggle off the visibility of it. That way I can still have access to it if I want to use it later in the layout. But because of that arrow, this photo is now clipped to the photo shape layer. And if you toggle off the visibility of the photo, the actual shape of it, you will no longer see your photo. So here's the photo that I'm toggling the visibility off. Here's the shape. And now they're both up there. So a lot of explanation for something extremely simple. And with the Move tool still selected, just like in the quick page, I can move the photo around until I have exactly what I want to see in that photo area. And I didn't even have to toggle off the visibility of my second photo back there. Let me fit the screen so you guys can see it. And there's my photo 1 in the photo 1 position. So let's clip the second photo, or third or fourth, depending on which template you chose. So I'm going to do that right now. Toggle on the visibility of my second photo, and there it is. And here's my photo 2 in the layers panel. I'm going to drag this one up. But first, like the other one, I'm going to get rid of the stitching. I've already toggled the visibility off, but there it is. I'm actually going to delete it by pressing the delete key. And I'm going to click on my second photo and drag it above the photo 2 shape layer in the layers panel. And then I'm going to go to Layer, Create Clipping Mask. And there's that photo clipped to the second photo in the layers panel. You can see it with the little arrow. I'm going to click on my photo and drag it down a little bit. And then, because of my bounding box, I'm going to reduce the size of it so that I'm getting not just her face, but a little bit of the extra water that's in the background there. And then commit my change. Now, if you're wondering what to do with these photo guides here, photo 1 and photo 2, you can go up to that layer in the layers panel, target it, photo guide, and delete it. You can press the delete key, as you guys have already learned previously, or you can click on the trash can to delete the layer in the layers panel. And that icon will also get rid of any layer that you click the trash can on. And let's look at the history panel. The history panel has logged all of my steps from deleting the layer to transforming it, creating the clipping mask, and I could go all the way back up to my layout if I wanted to, where I opened it, but I don't want to do that. We've had a ton of introductory stuff to cover in this first lesson, but we've now started to build a layout using a layer template, and I hope you can see how cool they are just by that one fact alone of using a clipping group or mask in the layers panel. Jump on over to the next video so we can complete the page with some digital creativity.